All right, good day and welcome to another edition of a Google Plus Hangout for Channels Beam. I'm Victor Matthias, and today on the program we will be looking at the events that went on in the year 2016. So much went on, so much in governance, in politics, in the world of sports. But then let's just flip through some of them. And joining me to look at that, we have Ben Cosmos. He joins us from Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. Thanks for coming on the program.
You're welcome, Victor.
Of course. Now we have Olumuyiwa Mao, who joins us from Dunedin in New Zealand. Thanks as well for coming on the program.
Yeah, always a pleasure being here.
Of course. We also have Shagun Dada, who is joining us from Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Shagun, thanks for coming on the program. But then your video is kind of changed. If you can use the rotate button, so you can, use the rotate button on your phone, so it gives us the and you hold the phone horizontally. That should make things work a lot better.
Yeah, always happy to be here.
Okay, all right. So let's start with you. I mean, what would you say struck you the most? I mean, in this year. Shagun, please go ahead.
Okay. Well, this year I don't know. I think saying one particular thing about the whole thing. This year has been a barrage of events. There have been so many things that happened this year, and to be honest, I think that everyone who is still alive at the end of 2016 should see this as a victory on its own, because a lot happened this year, and well, at least we're here. But chief among all of this is the fact that despite the recession, the Nigerian people have remained resilient, have remained hopeful, and have remained cooperative with the government and with the administration, and have not stopped, being the number one check and balance. The Nigerian people were the biggest opposition to the government. The biggest events that happened this year was the United States elections that held in November, and how, contrary to public opinion and popular belief that Donald Trump would be president, he eventually became president against all odds. So those are, like the major events that I can place my finger on that happened this year.
All right, Beryl, we'll come back to you on some of those things. Olumuyiwa, let me just come to you if you are still there.
Yes, I am. Very well.
All right, very well. So he talked about a few things, but what caught my attention was about how Nigerians were the major opposition to the government. Like, well, what would you say? Would you agree with him in that aspect? Because so much happened in terms of governance, and there was so much furore and hullabaloos here and there. What would you say caught your attention, though?
Well, the local front, I think we had a lot of mixed bag of chances and opportunities to make Nigeria better. I'm not so sure the government utilized it. We had several funds coming in terms of proceeds from the anti-corruption drive of the present government. We saw that Nigerians were beginning to feel that some elements who had the opportunity to preside over the affairs of this country had stolen from them, and a few of those monies were coming back. That for me was significant. It was the first time in so many years in the history of this country that I've seen people that have seen proceeds of corruption being allegedly repatriated or collected back from those who had stolen. I felt that's quite remarkable a feat for a government which many people didn't give a chance. It's under question whether it did very well in getting those monies back or not. Again, we saw that Boko Haram, which had ravaged the Nigerian state for the major part of the last 6 years, got their wings clipped. Again, that happened for the first time in so many years also. Again, for the very first time in 5-6 years, we saw Nigerians who were living in the war-torn northeastern part of the country returning home. I felt those were good significant developments in their country, and they certainly deserve commendation. Economically, was a bad year for Nigeria and for Nigerians. The economy was in shambles for the major part of the year. The naira began to fly uncontrollably. We saw a situation where things were as worthless as as tissue paper in Nigeria. We saw jobs being lost. We saw the recession biting harder. So from the economic angle in Nigeria, it wasn't really a good thing. I'm not so sure that that was what Nigerians expected when they voted for change. But most of these things are not factors you can control just by the tip of your fingers or just by a click of a button. They are systemic issues that needs to be dealt with systemically. So economy, very poor rating for Nigeria. It was a bad year. Security-wise, significant improvement, except that we had a few instances or perhaps major issues with the Fulani herdsmen and the hip hop guys who are agitating for a sovereign state of Biafra. So we had this mixed bag of opportunities here and there, and we also saw mixed bag of reactions from Nigerians. For me, that's the only takeaway I can walk away with. I mean, in the local scene, internationally, the world was shocked with the Brexit that took place in England. And in Britain, we also saw the Americans showing us exactly why the Americans by voting in a president-elect Donald Trump, and that was quite significant. We saw ISIS or the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, as you would like, being technically defeated, to borrow the words of Nigeria's president. So it's been a good year generally, if you look at it, for most people all over the world. For Nigerians, might not have been so good, but I'm not so sure it's been also terribly bad. I think that we have something we can look forward to moving into the new year. There are chances that things may actually get better. Whether they will, in fact, do get better is dependent on how this current government pursues those policies. But if you ask me on a scale of 1 to 10, it's been a bad and a good year for Nigerians and for the international community. It hasn't been as terrible as the previous years used to be. And before I round up, there was also a very sad incident in Brazil where the team Chapecoense, which was supposed to play the finals of the Copa Sudamericana finals, had problems getting to Colombia. That was a terrible one. Otherwise, I think the year has just come the way it's always been. For Nigerians, I only hope for the best.
Well, I'm sure everyone will hope for the best, but then let's also hear from Ben before we come back for the second round. Ben, what would you say caught your attention so far?
Yeah, a lot of things caught my attention in this year, 2015. It depends on the angle you want to look at it in terms of security issue, economic, and otherwise. You know, it's a mixed bag of feeling that if you want to write a whole lot of article on it, you keep writing and you never stop writing, because Nigeria is a very funny country. You know, anything is possible. And also, I'm looking forward to see how the president will react to some of the things that happened in 2016, in 2017, some of the revelations that just came, that just got opening that we just saw towards the end of this year, like the allegation against the SGF and the budget padding. We want to see how the president will react to some of these things in the next coming year, next year. So, and some of the things that caught my attention is the anti-corruption fight of Mr. President. For the first time, we see judges are being arrested, and you know, a lot of people were saying all manner of things, saying all manner of things, coming up with their own public opinion. And at the end of the day, we saw these judges being charged to court, which we have always wanted to see. And you know, and for me, for any anti-corruption agency to charge you to court for any offenses, it means they have a strong evidence against you, because they can't just send you to court without having any evidence. And we have also seen the fight against insurgency. Congratulations to the Nigerian army. They have done pretty well. At the same time, we've lost a lot of soldiers, gallant soldiers that just died because of, let me say, maybe poor management or lack of adequate military hardware to carry on their duty. If not, I mean, some of this death is something that we can stop. It's something that does not even need to even raise its ugly heads up. But we still thank God we are really making progress in that aspect. The Sambisa forest has been taken over by the Nigerian army. Kudos to them. Congratulations to those guys fighting and waging war against Boko Haram. we all have to give them our best support and pray for them also, so that they will be able to curtail the activities of these men in those regions. Secondly, we have seen also the headsmen rearing his ugly heads. They've killed a lot of people, and it's becoming a thing of concern based on the fact that the president has not said anything yet. So that is a lot of Nigerians are troubled. Maybe because they said because he's a Fulani man, it's his brothers, that is why he's not saying anything. That is our own opinion, and we are waiting to see what the president will do in the next say concerning the activities of the headsmen. Unlike what the governor of Ekiti State has done to drive this people away from his domain. He has really done well, because if other governors have done the same thing, I think that the killings that we have seen in the past year, like the Gatu killing in the southern part of Kaduna, in Enugu, I think these things wouldn't have happened. And so we want to see how the president will react to some of these things in 2017. Secondly, again, we have seen the River State election that that was so, I don't know what I would say, what is wrong with those guys from that region. I don't know, I really don't know. The election, we saw brutal killing, just a local government, the legislative rerun election, and we see the kind of guns and everything that is happening just in one state. The whole country is like, what is going on? We want to see how the INEC chairman will also react to some of these issues there. Although I heard the Nigerian police have set up some kind of investigative panel to investigate into what happened in Rivers State, and we are waiting to see the report by the end of the day. Another thing that caught my attention again was the economy. The high cost of living, poverty has increased. I was told recently that a flight from Abuja to Uyo costs from 50 to 55,000. So it's very worrisome. Nigerians are becoming poorer and poorer by day. High rate of unemployment. Kidnapping has taken a very high tone in part of the southeast and south of the country. I want to see that the president will do something to address some of these issues.
All right, Beryl, Ben, we'll come back to you again on some of those issues. Shogun, let me come back to you. While you started, you talked about how Nigerians were the greatest opposition to the government. So let's, I think we should begin to streamline things. Let's begin with the fight against corruption, of which I saw you nodding your head when Ben was talking about the president's fight against corruption. Some have argued that the fight against corruption is somewhat lopsided. Do you share that view?
Well, it's a matter of perception and opinion as to if the anti-corruption fight of Mr. President is decided or not. But the bottom line remains that less than 3 years ago, the EFCC, that has become the biggest fear of all public officers, both serving and retired, was just a backing dog at most. They couldn't do anything. They were subdued, and most of the agencies' stronger operatives were taken out. Most of the cases were trapped in court, and it was a free day for everybody. But right now we are seeing a situation whereby there's an eye watching everybody, watching the public officers. Citizens are also doing their part, calling the attention of public officers to the attention of anti-corruption agencies to public officers that are living above their means. We have seen for the first time in a very, very long time, even before when EFCC was in its true state under Olusegun Obasanjo, we have a situation where the EFCC is going at people without any recourse to sacred horses or some untouchables. Now, most of the people who have argued that the anti-corruption fight is decided only want to see what they want to see. There are so many members of the APC who are guests of the EFCC in one way or the other that have been arrested, or that are currently being prosecuted, or are currently being investigated, or petitions against them are being looked at. So the bottom line of the matter remains that, yeah, let's keep looking at it. But at the end of the day, those that are being prosecuted, are they suspected for anti-corruption or for corruption, or are they just being witch hunted? The bottom line is, if you're not a witch, you cannot be witch hunted. So those who are anti-corruption fighters, would have preferred a situation whereby the president uses his power to protect people, everyone from the EFCC. Few days, we have seen a situation where that happened. So at the end of the day, the worst that can happen is that if President Muhammadu Buhari and his administration one day have to leave the place, we are very, very sure, we are very, very positive that the next set of people will also look at the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari the way he's looking at the administration of the ones before him. So the bottom line is that there's an anti-corruption fight, and all Nigerians must try as much as possible to join the government in, keeping down this monster that has destroyed every sector, every agency, every government parastatal in this country. For the first time in a long time, I'm sorry I left this out earlier. The arrest of the judges since Nigeria became Nigeria, since 1960, nobody has dared to go after judges. Judges have always had the final say in everything. But today we have a situation where judges are being investigated, not just magistrate court judges. We're looking at Supreme Court judges who are currently facing anti-corruption cases in different courts across the country. Now, if this is not happening, if public officers are not scared, are not afraid to steal government money, we are going to have a state of anarchy. So those who think that the government's anti-corruption fight right now is decided can continue to hold their opinion, or supply the petition to the EFCC or the ICPC and help them fight this corruption to a massive standstill. That's my opinion on this one.
All right, very well. Let me just ask Olumuyiwa if he's still with us. Olumuyiwa, what would be your own perception about the anti-corruption fight so far?
Well, to start with, I think this government has made very significant attempts to show that it's no longer going to be business as usual. We must commend them for doing that. We must commend them for taking the battle to where other previous governments have dreaded. Colleagues have mentioned the fight in the anti-corruption fight in the judiciary. Colleagues have mentioned the anti-corruption fight in the political turf. I think that's highly commendable, and we must all applaud that. But that said, I'm not impressed at the way the anti-corruption agencies have been going about this fight in itself. We have seen instances where members of this ruling party, and by this ruling party I mean the APC-led government, fingered to have a few cases to answer, and rather than we seeing the kind of alacrity, or if you like, the kind of swift response that this government had demonstrated in the cases of anti-corruption allegations involving people who aren't part of the APC, we've seen this government work so lukewarmly, so slowly, so calmly into reacting to these allegations. And I'll give you two particular instances. The chief of staff to the president, Abba Kyari, has had a few corruption allegations, very weighty allegations against him in this outgoing year. And this presidency has turned their ears on those allegations. We have also seen the man who is the SGF of the Federation, Abacha Lawal, who we've seen the Senator Dino Malaye raising a few dusts against some of the projects or the contracts that were executed for the Northeast, and with, in some instances, allegations that were backed up with evidences. Whether those evidences were genuine or not is not the case. What is the case is, as I would expect, and as it happens in other normal crimes, when you do have such very serious issues leveled against you, courtesy demands. I mean, it's just right for you to take that honorable step of stepping down momentarily while the investigation goes on. But that hasn't been the case. Let's grant it that the parties involved are not able to take that step. What is happening to the presidency, who wants us to believe that this is a no-nonsense regime, and no matter how highly pleased you are, there shall be no sacred cows. I expected the Muhammadu Buhari presidency to say, look, I believe you are innocent, at least until proven guilty. But these are allegations that I need to investigate, and you continue to be in office might interrupt or perhaps interfere with these investigations. We haven't seen that. And that for me is a very big no on the crusade itself. And again, what we have seen over the last 1 year, if you like, is a situation where We have seen monies being collected, and these monies have been collected so secretly, as you would expect, and we don't even have names to these monies, and we are not so sure who gave what, how, and when. I think there's some bit of controversy surrounding these monies that are being collected from these guys. I would expect that Nigerians should be made to know exactly who paid what, how, and when. You cannot just tell us that they've gotten 10 billion, 15 billion from people who have stolen in the past and just give us a blanket, a very vague answer to who gave what and how. If you're saying you're going to be straightforward, I expect that word straightforwardness should be respected in all its entirety. And moving forward, I think that's where this government can really improve and perhaps let Nigerians know what it's doing and how it's doing it. I still think that a lot still needs to be done. I think this government is not fighting corruption 100%. I think it's one-sided. I want this government to convince me that it's not one-sided next year moving forward.
All right, very well. That's your own opinion again, but then let's also get to hear Ben's opinion on what this fight or how the fight against corruption has been from this government. Ben.
Yeah, I think I said on this. I said on this channel someday that I used to think that the fight against corruption was lopsided, on one angle, but at the same time, when these judges happened, I had a rethink of that. And if you look at all these people being accused of corruption, none of them have come to say they have not collected anything. Starting from the former NSA down to Metu and to the rest, none of them have said they have not collected anything. In one way or the other, they have returned part of the loot they have taken, and they are still returning. So I think, and if they have not collected anything, why would the EFCC go after these people? And I think the president is taking his time, step by step, gradually, to trace whatever money that has left the coffers of the government illegally. He's trying to recover them. Those he can recover, he will recover, and make sure that the people who stole this money will be brought to justice. So what I'm hoping to see is that people want to see next day. That's what I'm hoping to see. A lot of conviction and tons of appeal, because at the end of the day, someone was convicted and someone will go to court to appeal. So that is what I'm expecting to see by next day. And I'm hoping to see that more arrests will be made, because I think the president is gradually taking his time, because nobody that has been pointed, dragged to EFCC custody, interrogated, charged to court, has come out to say like, oh, I have not received this penny, or this money came to me, but I don't know it was a proceed of corruption. So one way or the other, they will have one or two things to say, and that is what we want to say in court. And I know, and if you say that the president is somehow lopsided, I will ask you how. It's true that some people have been pointed, some fingers have been pointed, but I think the EFCC is receiving a lot of appeal, receiving a lot of petition against these people, and they are doing some underground jobs to make sure that they don't go after the wrong person. If they go after the wrong person, at the end of the day, it's going to bounce on them. The person will take them to court, and he will fight for labels. She will fight for labels. I think they're just taking their time. But at least, I'm very glad that something is happening. So you just have to start from somewhere. That is what the president has done. It doesn't matter if the person is a PDP member or an ex-PDP member or is an APC member or an ex-APC member, but we just have to start from somewhere, which the president has done. And he has demonstrated the courage, he has demonstrated the strength, he has demonstrated that he has all the tools that is available to him to fight and wage war against corruption. I mean, this is the first time we have seen another petition coming in accusing the SFG, about some illegalities which he has done. I'm still waiting to see the reaction of Mr. President. Everybody is waiting. The whole world is watching to see what he will say. Already, don't forget that the wife of Mr. President has come out to say he doesn't trust some of the people in the husband's government. That the husband's government has been hijacked by some cabal. And the president also spoke in German and said, no, it's not true. That he has a superior knowledge over his government, that he's in charge. Despite all that came, the wife belongs to the kitchen and all that. But the president said he's in charge of the government. And to some extent, the president has shown that he's in charge of the government. And so we are just looking to see how he will react to some of these issues. I believe the president is taking his time. He's not in a rush. He wasn't rushing to pick ministers. So he's just taking it gradually. But the only thing I think, the problem he will be facing right now is between the Senate and the executive. They have rejected the nomination of Magu. So we want to see how the president will react to this issue. If Mago has some things to answer, I think hopefully we will see how the president will react to this, because if you want to fight corruption, I think we should be able to vow that, look, this guy is clean enough to fight corruption, because you can't be a thief and go after a thief. I mean, God see, the man, we just have to follow everything right and make sure that the person spearheading that aim of affair is pure and clean, right, is upright. And secondly, EFCC needs funding. They need a lot of funding. You need funding to fight corruption. You need training, forensic training. I don't think we even have a forensic lab in the whole country. We need a lot of these things. We need good people, technical people. I mean, girl, you don't have to fight. Investigation has got beyond just pen and paper. You need equipment. You need a lot of things involved. Okay. So all I'm saying is, let there be an increased funding for the EFCC, IPC, ICPC, and the rest, and the DSS. Increase their funding, they will do more.
All right. We have to wait and see how that plays out. Shagun is like, you want to add something? Sorry, we can't hear you. We still can't hear you, Shagun.
Hello.
Yeah, all right, great. We can hear you now.
Okay, I want to respond to some of the things that Mr. Muiwa said earlier.
Okay, that's fine.
One thing is, first of all, the proceeds of the corruption, the fight against corruption, some of the monies that have been repatriated, most of these monies are still subject to court litigations due to court process. Some of these cases are still in court, and at the end of the day, there's no way that these things will happen, and at the end of the day, the Nigerian people will not get a report from the anti-corruption agencies before they call a victory for maybe any of the anti-corruption wars. Again, we are always of the opinion that the president should do things at the time of the public uproar. But the truth of the matter is that if one thing is consistent about this president, he has shown that it is very, very easy to spring any allegation against anybody. Most of these people that are being are being prosecuted now in the year 2016, for almost 6 months, 7 months after this administration got into office, these people were still free. Most of these guys were still going about. So we were even prosecuting that they were going to run for offices in the next election. But what most Nigerians expected was, immediately the president got into office, he would start picking these people off the streets. That didn't happen. There has been a methodological approach towards this fight against corruption. These guys were picked up 9 months, some 1 year after this government had got in there. That would tell you that regardless of suspicion towards these people, there was investigation. And then when this investigation had got into a crucial stage, these guys were brought in, and then these allegations were made. So if you expect that the president should, maybe open Sahara reporters and look at an allegation against the minister, and then against the chief of staff or the SGF, and then based on what we see or what the whole public is saying, make his decision based on that. No, I don't think that he would have anybody left working with him. Let us not forget that these people that are being accused, that are inside the president's cabinet, were people that were selected by the president because the president trusted them. So let us accept that the president, they deserve the benefit of the doubt. But one thing is certain, that the president will not let these things go without due conclusion. So what we need to do more right now is to continue to encourage this administration not to rest in its efforts to fight this anti-corruption fight to a total standstill. We cannot expect these things to be done at the blink of an eye or at the flick of a finger. The truth is that even though Nigerians have not, as of 2015, most Nigerians had already declared the anti-corruption war dead, because they felt none of these guys have been arrested. Some of these guys get arrested, they get freed 3 days, 4 days after the court has said go and bring 500 million or 100 million, 200 million. They get bail. But the truth is that the way history will remember all these things is the prosecution and the judgment
It doesn't matter how long it takes, as long as the government, this administration is actually going after these people and not just, what we should continue to press for is a logical conclusion to all these fights. So to the war.
All right.
If we look at it from the way that we think that these things should be done, from an outsider's point of view of thinking, oh, why can't the president just do this? The president is not the one that is going to get the judiciary to pass judgment on these guys. Olisa Metu's case, for instance, has been concluded. It is very obvious that this guy, collected this money, even though he's denying now that he didn't know that, it was from the NSA and all that. But the truth of the matter is that these cases have gotten to a logical conclusion. All we are expecting is the judgment from the courts. If there's judgment from the courts, nothing can be done. And it will be foolhardy of us to expect that the president should do the job of the judiciary for them. The most important thing in every anti-corruption war is the political will to actually fight this war. And that is what we are seeing in this admission today. And it for all the inconsistency. So let us give the president time to, go over what the allegations that have been made towards the people that are close to him. We are certain that he knows that we are looking at him, and he knows that the Nigerian people want to know. So at the end of the day, that this is the few things I thought I should point out or clarify to Mr. Muiwa.
All right, very well. Muiwa, let me just come to you. Moving forward, let's look at the economy, which is one of the things that actually made a lot of headlines this year. Where would you put it?
I wouldn't place the fault of the basket that our economy is right now 100% at the doorstep of this present government. Again, I would like to say that most of the reasons why we are where we are today has to be with the government, has to be with the failure of the government to do what needs to be done when it needs to be done. And I'll be very explicit about this. I agree that the country over the last 16 years, particularly over the last 7 years before this government came into being, did squander our collective commonwealth. I agree that we had so much money as a country over this period, particularly under the Jonathan presidency, in terms of the oil boom and all that, and we had failed to save. I also agree that corruption became the symbolic meaning or name or meme for the Jonathan administration, and that Nigerians were really skinned alive in terms of the loot that took place in our treasury. But be that as it may, when this government came into being, this isn't a government that stumbled on power accidentally. This was a presidency, and by presidency I mean a Muhammadu Buhari who was wanting to be president on 3 different occasions and has failed, and the 4th attempt he succeeded. So I expected I would be prepared for office. I expected that he would hit the ground running. I expected that most of these issues had become public knowledge even before they got into power, and that they'll be able to move the normal way a prepared government or a prepared incoming government should move. For more than 6 months, when we had this change in government, the presidency told us it was busy, or the president told us it was scouting for qualified and competent hands who do not have any shade attached or any stigma attached to their name to run these offices. And for 6 months, this country was without an economic policy. You cannot run a government like that. A country as big as Nigeria for 6 months had no ministers. There was no clear-cut economic direction. There was no input as to where the economy was moving. Investors were not so sure or what step the next government would take in terms of policy. And between that time and when these ministers eventually came on board, things had been messed up. I recall before this presidency took over, or this government took over, the dollar was exchanging at about 295 to 300, actually about 198 to 1 or thereabout to a dollar, about 198 to 200 naira to a dollar. This government came in and made a very big blunder by devaluing our currency. I felt it was a very bad move, devalued the currency and refused to allow market forces dictate the price in the market. And what you have is what we are having now, where you have 3 different price regimes for how much our currency is exchanging. That for me is a show of gross incompetence on the part of this government, and that perhaps explains why Nigerians are where they are. Everything that has to do with Nigeria is dependent on how much a dollar exchanges to in naira. Every sector of our economy is dollar driven. The only mainstay of our income, petrol, is dollar driven. Nigeria is a highly dependent import, is highly import dependent. Dollars control what happens in terms of importation. The government took steps to ban some items, which I support 100%, and said, look, we're going to encourage local production. At the same time, you are stifling local production by not allowing people who genuinely have or need dollars to access these funds to encourage importation of the materials they need. What you end up doing is to service or subsidize an already established cabal in terms of whatever they need to bring in and all that. And we saw that in the case of Dangote's. We saw that in Dangote. We saw that in the case of those who want to bring in petroleum products and also show up. We have seen the Manufacturer Association of Nigeria complaining that they don't have access to dollars. Genuine people who really have the interests of this country at heart don't have access to these dollars. You cannot run a country like that. And that explains why a dollar is 480 to 490 to 1 as we speak on the 28th of December. So I think that while you would say that it's not the making of this government 100%, but what has this government done to change the story? Between the Minister for Finance and the CBN governor, you have a lot of wide gap in between them. There is poor coordination of policies. How do you run the country like that? So I think that where we are now, as much as it isn't 100% or the making of this government, we are where we are now because this government has been particularly clueless when it comes to the economy. You saw what Donald Trump, the incoming president of America, is doing now. People thought, or I thought Donald Trump would probably be a comedian. To be honest, I've been impressed so far by what he's done in terms of the people he's assembled. He's trying to gather what he thinks or who he thinks or those he thinks are the best hands for him to do the job. What do we have in Nigeria? And the Emefiele who does not agree with the fiscal policies, and the woman who is the finance minister who doesn't agree with the monetary policies. How then do you want the economy to move forward? And I must be very candid. If things are not done the way they should be done, I see a very bleak 2017 economy-wise for Nigeria. This budget that we have seen in terms of the new budget that's been presented in the National Assembly does not look like a budget that can build us out of this mess. I agree, recession is not something you come out from in 1 year, but we need to see urgent or concrete steps towards making us believe that we can actually come out from this recession. Unfortunately, I cannot see that happening now. Unfortunately, also, I don't also understand what the president thinks about the economy. I don't think he's convinced that things are in a very bad state. I think he feels that this is an utopian state where Nigerians won't decide to complain because we are used to complaining. That's not the case, unfortunately. And I hope that somebody somewhere listens and try and see if there could be a coordination between our fiscal policies and our monetary policies so that Nigerians at least can be relieved. And lastly, before I drop anchor on that point, we have seen the government say we are going to make sure that we ban the importation of materials we can produce locally. Beautiful. We've seen that happen in the case of rice, but rice has been banned from being imported through the land borders. But what have we seen in terms of the few quantum of rice we have been able to produce in Kebbi and in Lagos State? How much of a support has this government given to these two states to make sure that these things become as readily available in the markets as possible? We haven't seen that, and this is where the government needs to be seen to be working and not being seen to be working on the page of newspapers. How want to see a change in that direction moving forward?
Well, Ford isn't too far from where we are now, but let's also look at the issue of security. What would be your take on that? Quickly, we should be wrapping up soon.
Well, I said that security-wise, there's been this radical departure from the incessant bombings we have been used to, which has become part of our security culture in Nigeria over the last 7 years before the government came into being. I think this presidency has shown that it does have the capacity to secure the lives of Nigerians, albeit with some exceptions in Kaduna very recently and in most parts of the North Central and the northern region where we have had Fulani herdsmen wreaking havoc. I think the government hasn't done enough to make sure that trend stops. I must say that we've had Fulani attacks and Fulani herdsmen wreaking havoc in Nigeria all through the years. I mean, it's not peculiar to this government alone, but for a presidency that has that aura, that charisma, that competence to solve most of these problems, as it has been demonstrated in Boko Haram. Moving forward, I want to see cases of kidnapping in the southeast. I want to see Fulani herdsmen being pocketed, and I want to see Kaduna having peace, at least for once in their lifetime, Kaduna has been a hotbed of violence over the last 16, 17 years, since 1999. I want to see something positive in that direction. So security-wise, I think Nigerians are better off. Can we do better? Yes, I think we can. How? This government needs to show that it isn't partisan or perhaps biased in the way it attends to our security needs. Let this government deal with Fulani herdsmen the same way that dealt with Boko Haram, and let's see kidnapping become a thing of the past in most part of the country.
All right, thank you very much, Malumi Washagun. Let me also come to you to get your own take on the issue of security. I mean, he made a couple of statements, but then let's get your own opinion.
On the issue of security, we need to look at it from two angles. In terms of or three, even four, if I could say, because let us think about it properly. The army alone is involved in 33 of 36 states in the federation. The army is involved in their internal security. The only thing that has been a source of hope and belief for me is the fight against the insurgents and the crackdown on the Niger Delta Avengers or militants or troublemakers who have been, bombing pipelines and all of that. Now, in terms of internal security, we've had a very, very serious issue because apart from the fact that the amount of internal security personnel we have cannot successfully police this country, we have a situation where the climate change is affecting a lot of things. It's bringing a lot of things. Is expediting a lot of things. Look at the deforestation that is happening all over the north. It's pushing the Fulani herdsmen from out of the country into Nigeria to make unnecessary incursions. And in this case, they have confrontations with the settlers who own the lands where they bring their cows to eat, and then it becomes a big brouhaha. So the issue for me with security is the internal security. The Interior Ministry has not done enough to curtail the activities of people who are in various places in the country trying to destabilize the peace. If they don't have enough personnel or the military the paramilitary know-how to make these things work. We recently added about 10,000 new recruits to the Nigerian police force. But the truth of the matter is that for this country to be actually safe, we need a situation where we have one police to 50 citizens. We cannot reach that stage by giving most of the security that we have to the politicians. If more of the securities are running outside the politicians, about 50 policemen, DSS agents, and all of that, protecting one man, while other citizens, are fair game in the hands of these troublemakers. Look at Zamfara, for instance. They are suffering from banditry. The banditry has been so bad, they even had to, send the military has to begin an operation in Zamfara to root out this bandits, which is currently ongoing. Now, look, the issue of South Kaduna, earlier this year, it was in Agatu where this thing happened. The military beefed up in Agatu and in areas around the North Central, in Plateau, in Nasarawa. But, the thing moved again to South Kaduna. So at the end of the day, we need to do more to protect our territorial integrity from incursions of this armed conflict groups who just want to come in and cause chaos. I believe that, the military is overworked. And to be honest, even in a situation where there's a terrorist attack inside the United States, you would never see the military rushing to decide to, be the ones to be the second or first responders to such an incident. We need to reform our internal security policy as soon as possible. I'm hoping that the president and his Minister of Interior will look very, very, very critically into this matter. Meanwhile, the issue of insurgency, we can see that the bombings have reduced drastically
the terrorists have been pushed to the brink of everything. You know, they've been driven out from everywhere, and their last ground, which is like the symbol of this entire armed conflict, is the Camp Zero, which has now been routed by the Nigerian army. So we know that, you know, we have people who can actually protect us, but these people are overworked. I hope that by 2017 and 2018 going forward, would have armies, participation in internal security reduced to a considerable size. So apart from that, there has been a win-lose situation for us in the security sector, as far as I know. Also, intelligence has wrapped up a very, very great deal. The DSS of this administration is very, very, very different from DSS of the last administration. You have a situation whereby, you know, these bombings are reduced to suicide bombings of cheap targets that Boko Haram can get near to. You have a situation where the DSS is going after, you know, they've arrested Albanawi, the third most wanted terrorist in the entire world. So we know that these guys can do a lot, but they need the support both from the Nigerian people and the government itself. We need to, you know, put more attention after this war on the insurgency, and we want to a considerable conclusion. We need to concentrate on our internal security. We need to be able to protect our citizens from incursions from countries that are surrounding us that can make, you know, armed incursions into our territories. So I think it's a win-lose situation for the security sector.
All right, very well. So we'll just be rounding this up, but Ben, let's also just get a bit from you quite quickly before we round up this conversation.
Yeah, the economic recession in the country, if this present administration is capable enough to manage it very well, it will be a very good opportunity for us as a nation to have more entrepreneurs on board. We'll be able to have more rich men, more rich Nigerians who will come and take over part of some of these companies that have left Nigeria over since this thing started, because some of the foreign companies complain that they cannot repatriate their profit and all that because of the exchange rate, and these companies are gone. Example is like, I think, the British airline. So all we need to do is to make sure that we can manage this recession very well. At the end of this recession, we will have more entrepreneurs, our own local Nigerians who take over the footsteps these people have left and take over their businesses. By the time we are fully out of recession, this company, by the time they come back, they will be looking for ways to compete with other people in the sector. I think all we need to do is good management. The president has shown his commitment in the fight against insurgencies and insecurity. In terms of security, I will score him high. He has done well, and I believe he's doing more. I think the same thing he should do is to assemble some set of good economic experts who will sit down and manage the situation, discuss the way forward for this country, know how to manage our economic situation, bring down the high cost of living, because right now the high cost of living is too much. It's too much that you just can't even begin to, you know, imagine what people are passing through. People are losing their job day by day. People are complaining lack of funds, no money. For God's sake, it is not the budget that will even take us out of recession. It is the good economic plans you have that will take us out of recession. Budget is every year we've been saying that it's not the budget that will take us out, but the policies you have on board, how you can help your local farmers, our local industries to come on board again, come back to life in terms of the transport sector, in terms of the agricultural sector, in terms of the mines and steel and all that sector, and all the sectors that pumps in money, generates revenue to the government, in terms of our local internally generated revenue and all that. I think if the government should have good economic experts, assemble them, backdoor on whatever way you can, have good economic policy, put the exchange rate, manage it very well. At the end of the day, we all will be smiling. This thing will last forever, but it all depends on the approach, the manner of approach, how the president and his team are able to manage this recession. That is the main important thing, and that is what I hope to see in 2017, that by the end of this recession, we will have more entrepreneurs more than ever before, new people coming to play in the telecom sector, in the oil and gas sector, in the transportation sector, in the airline industries. That is what I want to see. But apart from trying to apportion blame, because you came on board, you met an empty treasury. I mean, I think that era should be over. The era of blaming the past administration should be over, because the reason why we voted you is because of we believe you can do better. They have failed, and that is why we're giving you a chance to do what you can do, and we are expecting to see change, to see that things can be done in another dimension. It's true that you cannot blame this present administration on what has happened in the past, how money has been looted, how money has been shared, you know. But I think to some extent we can still understand with them that this is what they have made on board, and they are trying to see how they can save the situation. And I think the president is doing all what he can. We have to encourage him to do more, and do more. That's all I can say for now. I hope to see the way he reacts to some of these policies, some of these policies, and some of the way things have been done that has not been done well in 2017.
All right, very well. Thank you. Thank you, Ben, and thank you everyone who also joined on the Hangout. And for those of you who watch for our YouTube stream, thank you as well for coming on board and being part of the program. But that's where we have to wrap it up till we come back again next week with another topic. It is Google Hangout for Channels Beam, and I'm Victor Matthias.